Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. How are we here already? How are we here? It's so hard because we're watching 3 episodes tonight. I'm like, oh my god, 3, 48, 49, and 50. I'm binging. I haven't binged this series since the 30s. So, but that's what we're doing. The final 3 episodes. I really debated. I debated on whether to split off that last episode, but no, it's probably gonna end on some stupid cliffhanger, and then y'all be like, "Why'd you do that?" And so no. But I'm not done. It's weird. I can't believe I'm already to the end of the Untamed. It seemed like we just started this series not that long ago, but we're already here. And I've been looking at Mo Dao Zu Shi for a long time, like a year and a half at this point. But we're not done with Mo Dao Zu Shi because as I'm recording this, what premiered earlier today was chapters 198 through 104, and I still have 4 more weeks of Mo Dao Zu Shi, if you can believe it. So next week we'll have chapters 104 to 106 in the audio drama and the novel, along with the first movie that accompanies this, because I told myself I'd look at all the Mo Dao Zu Shi content, so we're covering all the bases. And then the week after that, I'm going to be looking at chapters 106 to 110 and the second movie. And then we're going to do chapters 111 to 113. And I thought about, you all had said there was like songs. There was Untamed character songs. So I want to do a reaction video of the Untamed character songs and do a thing with that. That'll be fun. And then from there, I do want to do kind of all the extra novel chapters. And I've been told that there is a WangXian special edition of the Untamed where they added more special edition scenes. And so I didn't want to go through and watch, I think they said it was like 20 episodes. I didn't want to watch the 20 episodes, but someone, a fellow patron that I will thank in the video when I get to it, sent me a link to all the compilation of all the extra scenes. So I'm going to watch those. And I'm pretty excited about that. I've been told about the behind the scenes, but I'll be honest, y'all, there are so many behind the scenes. I could just do a whole channel and another year's worth of just behind the scenes. And as much as I want to do that, I do want to get to Heaven Official's Blessing. I've been waiting a year and a half to get to it. So I do want to start that. So, yeah. But with that being said, I'm assuming there have been people in the Discord share some behind the scenes. And I'm sure that you all, I'll probably ask, I told some other people I'd probably do like a Patreon thing where I ask people for specific behind the scenes videos, and then once I start into Heaven's Official Blessing, I might on my own time record me reacting to some, like the top favorites. If you had any behind the scenes clips to recommend me, what would it be? And so I'll probably put a post out on Patreon and the community post here on YouTube and ask for those, and go from there, and then just compile a video of me reacting to those, like the top 20 that y'all recommended. I'll probably do something on Patreon because that's kind of like a Patreon perk. But yeah, so the last 3 episodes, huh? Where I'm at in the novel is that they're at Guanyin Temple. We've made it there in the novel. There's much more spicy things that have happened in the novel that I'm sure are not going to happen in this for censorship reasons. But we just got to the point where Chang had showed up and Yao was basically getting into Chang about his whole thing with Wuxian. So basically where we're at right here. And it kind of ended in the same spot where they discovered the coffin and everything from there. So the novel went a little bit further, but it ended about the same place this did. So I'm excited because we'll get to see how the Untamed ends. And in the next couple weeks, I'll get to see how the novel is different from that ending. And it's already much different. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, y'all. I have pulled up my sleeves. I've got my notepad. I've got my coffee. I'm like, I am set. The final 3 episodes in the Untamed. First of all, thank you all so much for convincing me to watch this at the same time. I'll be honest, nothing's going to replace this slot other than me maybe putting in some behind the scenes videos later, because I originally wasn't going to watch the Untamed, or I was going to, watch it on my own time. And then a lot of people kept being like, no, you need to react to it. It goes with Mo Dao Zu Shi. And I was like, okay. And I'm so glad that I did. So thank you all for recommending it. It's been fun editing it and the novel reactions at the same time, but it's been such an enjoyable experience, and I've really enjoyed viewing it at the same time as the novel and seeing how these 2 adaptations, how the adaptation and the source material are different than the Donghua, which I watched before. So, and plus it's amazing. And now I know these actors somewhat, so I'm like, what else have they been in? And so I definitely want to, in the future, I don't want to switch over to a live action channel. I'm not ready for that. There's too many anime, too many Donghua I still want to watch. But I do want to incorporate more Danmai, more BL live action things into my channel because it's something I enjoy. and I've had a lot of people recommend Word of Honor and series like that, and so I have a feeling that those series will probably pop up within the year or two, and I'll get to watch those. I'm definitely intrigued. Y'all have me intrigued about some of these series. I'm like, if it's like the Untamed, then I'll probably like that. So yeah, but I really enjoy it. So thank you all so much for recommending this. I hope you all have enjoyed watching the Untamed with me, and we'll watch other things too in the future. And I'm really excited for Heaven Official's Blessing. I'm very excited for that. I've heard it's a doozy, but that's neither here nor there. We have to get through these episodes first, and we got 3 of them, so let's not waste any more time. Let's see how this concludes. I know the Donghua, I haven't got to it in the novel yet, but let's see how this version's different than the Donghua, at least. I have a feeling it's going to be very different. But we're going to start episodes 48, 49, and 50 of The Untamed here in 3, 2, 1, and let's see this all go down, y'all. Ow! Why? Okay. You know what, I'm really glad that this is not the last that I've watched of this series. That I'm very glad that I watched this before finishing the novel, because I have a funny feeling I'm going to enjoy the novel's ending much more. Because how dare you, show? How freaking dare you? I can understand the censors, like having them stand on the edge of the waterfall together and having Wuxian just like drinking from the Emperor's Smile, and him and Wanji just exchanging a look, being like, so one day let's just go, like, but to have them go separate ways, and then you tease us like that, where you have him look back at the camera, but you don't show us that it's Wanji. You couldn't dignify us with that look. I mean, we know it's Wanji, but you couldn't even. How dare you, show? How dare you? 50 episodes. And I was fine. I was fine with the censorship. I was fine with you can't say WangXian, can't have 2 guys holding hands, can't make out in a temple. I'm fine with that. But you know what? But you give us that ending. Wow. I may have overreacted. Just a bit, but I was just floored. Like, we have like a fake out, and they bring them back together just to have them go separate ways again, and then they have them come back together at the end. Like, make up your mind, show. Luckily, my notes weren't ruined. Man, God. But like I said, I'm very happy that I still have like 10 to 12 chapters of the novel left to read. And where the novel left off was right where Sushi showed he had the 100 holes curse. That's where the novel's left off, where I'm at right now. So thank goodness I still have to see how MXTX wanted her work to end originally. And it's been pretty spicy so far. So, I mean, I get, obviously they can't show in the Untamed all the spiciness that MXTX has in the original novel. I get that. But you couldn't have them just like, I thought they were going to like walk off together, and then it would show him like playing the flute, kind of like what they did when they were going towards the burial mounds, and they just walk off together in the sunset. Because that's how the Donghua ends. The Donghua ends with them riding off in the sunset together. And they actually have the balls to say WangXian in the Donghua. How they got away with it, I don't know. But they managed to make it work. And it does, and there's not any crazy, romantic gestures or anything. It's just 2 guys, just 2 soulmates wandering off in the distance, and ooh. I'm really happy that I still have the novel to read. I'm really happy that I'm not going out on this note. As much as I love The Untamed, and I've loved this series so much, but that ending, I'm really glad that I am going to have the novel to finish up with. And then we have the live stream. We can talk about the endings of all 3 and which one I like the best. I'm gonna just put a feeler out there and say that this ending I'm probably going to like the least, just because the Donghua ends it's fine. I have a feeling I'm going to like the novel the most, but we'll see how that goes. But man, these episodes, whew, I had probably the most comments about episode 49. And then when I got to, I wrote in big letters, the end, like a question mark and an exclamation point, like the fudge. Okay. But man, so this whole thing, probably one of my favorite parts in Chang's breakdown. The actors in this, they were just like pouring their hearts out. They were pouring. Jishin's actor gets a shout out. Holy crap, Jishin's actor. Oh, okay. Like, what a performance. And then Yao's actor's been like, Yao and Chang, I feel like, I don't remember if Yao is a theater actor or not. Chang is definitely a theater actor. You can tell. You can tell that he's done a lot of theater because of just how expressive he is and how emotional. And like the sweat and tears pouring off of him, like just Chang's actor. And that whole thing, the part that like broke my heart was he's like, you said that we'd be heroes together, that we'd be the twin heroes. And I talked about this in the novel chapters in the audio drama, but I talked about it in those chapters. But just the fact that Chang took that so to heart, and Wuxian didn't take it nearly as much to heart. Like, Wuxian was serious in that moment. He's like, yeah, I'll be your subordinate, you'll be the clan leader, and we'll be just like my father and your father. But Wuxian kind of adjusted as time went by, and after his golden core was given to Chang, he realized that wasn't a possibility, and so he just didn't stick to that promise. Chang took it to heart, and at the end, Wuxian's like, all I can tell you is I'm sorry, I broke my promise. I can't tell you anything else. That's just the truth of it. And it's like, that's the rough part, is it's like, holy crap, man, it guts you, just right there. But then and Chang just is like, what can I do at this point? And I like that Chang's like, I'm not so delicate, but yet he's just so emotional, and it's just, my gosh. Huaisang! Huaisang. I'm curious, I'm going to be curious in the novel, because this ends very much like the Donghua. Now, the Donghua has like a big old battle and everything, and there's like a tornado around Mingzhu and all this, and Mingzhu's corpse comes to life and battles them all, and they kind of hint at that in this. I don't know if for the budget reasons and censorship they couldn't show us it, so I'm going to be curious in the novel to see how this all ends. I don't want to be spoiled, though. Don't tell me how the novel ends, because I'm almost there, right? The next couple weeks I'm going to be finding that out. But this very much mirrors the Donghua a lot, only it's much more expanded upon. The Donghua like wraps everything up in like an episode, and this expands on it. But Huaisang, what I love about Huaisang and all of this is that by the very end of this, and the end of the Donghua, we know that Huaisang was behind it all. But they never come out and say it. They never come out and confirm it, right? It's always lingering there. And once you kind of know and you piece together everything, it all makes sense. And it makes sense that Huaisang was behind it all. And all of his actions make sense. And there's little tiny glances that Huaisang's actor gives that you're like, yeah, but he never has this big villain monologue. He never comes out and says, it was me the whole time. He's very opposite of Yao. He never comes out and reveals his whole grand scheme and tries to justify any of it. No, he doesn't justify a thing. He's just like, I really don't know. And we as the audience know that it's likely because Huaisang, because he knew Yao killed his brother, because he wanted vengeance for him, but he never outright, he does the exact opposite of Yao. He never comes outright and says his plan. He never gives anything away. He's totally silent about it. And that ending scene, I put down here, the ending scene where Wuxian and Wangji like meet up with him at Gusu, and he has the giant, beautiful fan, and he looks so confident there. Like, he looks so much more confident and himself than he has the entire series. And Wuxian's like, don't you know the most important rule? Thou shalt not befriend the devil. And it's like, Yao is Huaisang as the devil. It's good. But yeah, so then and the burn marks, the poison. I thought the effects on the poison were really good. I like the burn marks on the corpses. That was all done really, really well. That was great. Mingzhu in the coffin. Everybody's reactions to Mingzhu in the coffin was amazing, especially Huaisang and Jixin's. There's like a glance of Huaisang like over Jixin's shoulder where he's just like glaring at Yao, like just looking at him. But Jixin, oh my God, Jixin's reaction. He's just like, they told me that you were to be trusted, and now everybody's proving me wrong. And then I want to make note that Wuxian at the very beginning there, I put down he was pleased as punch about his detective skills. Wuxian like put everything together, and he's like, I did it. I Scooby-Dooed it. Look at me. And he like looks over. I love that in that moment when he's like so proud of himself that he's figured everything out. There's a moment where he looks over to Wangji and he's like, look what I did. And Wanji's like, like, I know. It's funny because in the novel, around this time, in the novel, I've just gotten to where they've confessed to one another. Wuxian has confessed that he loves Lanzan, and Lanzan's like accepted him, and they like kiss in a storm, and it's the most beautiful thing. If you've not read the novel, you need to. If you've not listened to the audio drama, you need to. It's the best thing. And so the whole time that this scene was playing, all I could think of was like, well, during this scene, Wangji and Wuxian are making out. So like that's all I could think of. I was like, Yep, they're like cuddling on a mat together during this whole thing and like having googly eyes and confessing their love and their starry gazes towards each other, and Cheng's having to deal with it. Like that's all I could think of, is that I love where the novel and the audio drama are at so far. It's right around chapter 104 where they're at the temple and everything. And it's just, I was imagining all the spice, and then it made me mad because we weren't getting all the spicy goodness romance. So what can we do? But yeah, oh my gosh. And then Yao in this whole set of episodes was just like a predator, just like a velociraptor, like just like a bird, just like bouncing around and fussing and like flitting. He was very, his movements were very animalistic. And Wuxian making that comment, being like, you've been the predator all along, but there's been a hunter behind your back this entire time. And it was Huaisang. I feel like in the temple, Wuxian knows. He's figured it out that it's Huaisang. He knows it is. There's just no way. There's no outright way to prove that it's him. So he can't just come out and say it. It's like, he can't just come out and say it. There's no way to prove that it's him. It's like, okay. And then, the 100 Holes curse. Sushi this whole time. It was Sushi. They don't quite explain it as much in here, but in the novel and the audio drama, it's explained that Sushi really just had a grudge against... and he has that big speech about the nobles and being born from, like, nobility, and how his whole speech is just the idea that this is the way that people are looked down upon, and you treat it as like we have no way out of the system, and that we're just going to have to accept our condition, and that's what he gets mad at. And it keeps panning back to Yao, and you can realize that Yao feels the same way. And it's like, okay, all right. And so it makes a lot of sense why Yao was so kind to Sushi and why Sushi looked up to Yao, because to Yao, Sushi was someone in the same boat as him, someone that was rejected. And even though Sushi tried to be part of the Lan clan and tried to be this model citizen like Wangji, and he got rejected, Yao tried to be just like Daddy Jin's son, like he wanted, and he got rejected too. So you can see where Yao would feel sympathy towards Sushi. And then Sushi, Yao was just kind to him, and Yao was the first person from a higher status to be nice to him. So he was like, oh, okay, cool, I'll be your friend. And it's just circumstance that brought them together. And the fact, in this, I'm going to be curious, because in the novel, they don't touch back upon Yao goading Zixun. They just establish that Sushi had the 100 Holes curse, and he put it on Zixun just out of spite because he didn't like Zixun, and it just happened to lead to all these bad things happening. And Wuxian in the novel, he just laughs about it because he's like, all this stuff happened to me and everyone else because of your petty grudge. And in this, they do deliberately pin it back to Yao, and they make sure that Yao is responsible. And I'm sure that has something to do with censorship. So there's that. I'm not crazy about that. I like that it's more ambiguous. I think it has more impact when Wuxian realizes that this was just a circumstance that happened, and it just led to all these bad consequences. But then Yao telling Wuxian, he's like, no matter what, no matter if it had been Zixun or Sushi or whatever, this was going to happen because you're that type of person. You're the type of person that doesn't live long. You're untamed. You have this heroic spirit. You're destined to burn out and not fade away. And then Wuxian crying. I didn't need to see Wuxian crying. Nobody did. There was lots of crying in this episode. There was Wuxian crying, Zixun crying, mainly Zixun and Wuxian, and then Cheng included, and then Yao included, but so much Zixun and Wuxian crying. Oh. But yeah. The no need for the flute to bring... What have I put in? No need for the flute to have Mingzhu. So yeah, so the blade... Yao, anyone who can see... Okay, so that I put the no flute, he can whistle there. So Wuxian's like, I don't need a flute. I can just whistle and make the spirit do what I want. And Wangji seems to notice. I like that Yao can't see. Yao can see the blade spirit, but nobody else can. I think that's pretty cool. That thing with the spirits was interesting. But then... Wangji and Zixun using getting their powers back, Sushi getting cut. That was great. Wangji has a flair for just hacking off people's limbs. Wanji's like, if you get near my boyfriend, I'm going to hack off your limb. That just is bound to happen. But then Zixun being like, you're no longer my friend, to Yao. Y'all warned me about the Zixun and Yao angst. It was real. It was really real. I was not ready for it. But it was there. I was not ready for the Zixun Yao angst. Not at all. No. And then I like the 7 days. Like, it's like the horror movie trope, the 7 days. 7 days Yao says he finds a letter. I haven't gotten to this part of the novel yet, so I'm going to be really curious to know what changes in the novel from this. But again, I don't want to know yet because it's literally the next week's chapters that I'm reading. But having 7 days to either kill himself or he'll be exposed. And we think that Huaisang gave him that letter. And so he was like, I was just going to wait and act on it. Wait rather than act on it. And then it's funny, you have Yao's whole thing about no choice, and you have Huaisang's whole thing about I don't know. So it's like Yao's like, I had no choice, there was no other way. And then when Xixin questions Huaisang at the end, he's just like, I just don't know. Like, I love that's their catchphrases, and they're very similar but very different, right? And so, honestly, I wrote just a bad situation. The whole thing with Chinsu was just a bad situation. They don't come out and say that she was pregnant when they got married, I'm assuming for censorship. But everybody, we've been talking in the comments with the novel and the whole scandalous reveal. And everybody in the comments has been pointing out that, yeah, likely Chinsu was pregnant when she married Yao. And so he was like, I can't out her because then this child is going to grow up not only being the progeny of 2 siblings, but also they're like going to be a bastard child. And so he's like, I know what it's like to grow up in an environment where you are the bastard. And he's like, I don't want my son going through the exact same thing. So, I mean, we've had lots of debates over how involved Yao was in Song's death, but it makes, like, the way that he justifies it to Xixin here, yeah, it makes sense. He's like, I worked and it makes sense for Yao's character why he like was selfish in the sense that he didn't want to break up that relationship that he'd forged all of these years. But it also makes sense that Yao did actually care about Chinsu, and he didn't want her, because we established in the novel and in this that Chinsu has a very fragile ego and a fragile state of being. So he's like, if people found out and ridiculed her for it, she'd probably kill herself. And she ends up killing herself in this series. So it's like, yeah, her mental state is very fragile. So it makes sense why he did it. But the excuse of having no choice is what pisses Xixin off. It's like, not the fact that you didn't do it because of X, Y, and Z. When you say you have no choice, it's like, no, you did. And you made that choice. But that slap by Xixin, the angle of his face getting mad, like it's from the chin up, like that angle and that slap. Oh, I don't remember that from the Donghua, and so I was not expecting that here. I was like, oh, shoot. The Oscars was just on the other night. It's like, yee, timely. Like, whew. But yeah, oh, man. And then Sushi with the flute, and we see it was Sushi with the flute. I'm assuming it was Sushi at this point that was the second flute on the Nightless City. Again, I like in the novel that it was more of Wuxian's fault than anything, but in here they have to give it a means and a justification, and so they use Sushi and Yao. So fine, but it's just really, really sad. And then they attacking Ling, and then I love that Wuxian like grabs Ling in his arms and holds him. It's like, it's so sweet that Wuxian gets to finally be with his nephew, even though him and his nephew have matching necktie scars. Like, that's just, we're gonna get into that. But then we go, why do all these things happen to me? And then we get to Daddy Jin. Daddy Jin, that scene, I hope that actress that had to, like, kiss a grape out of his mouth, I hope she got paid overtime. Like, not that the actor playing Daddy Jin is gross or anything, but just, like, I don't know. I guess if you're an actress, that's part of the deal, and you know you're doing it, but that's just, ugh. I'd be like, In the context of the story, it's very gross. In the context of the actress, I'd be like, okay. What am I getting paid? Is it SAG scale? How are we doing this? But Daddy Jin's just, And the whole, no, forget it. I feel like it's phrased a different way in the Donghua. And I feel like in the Donghua, it's like, who is he? Or like, who cares? Or like, he's not important or something like that. But the forget it line, it fulfills the justification of why Yao hates his father so much. And I wrote down here that no, forget it. It kind of reminded me in the oddest of ways. It reminded me of when Wuxian says screw it on the snow-filled like deck outside of Wanji's bedroom when he's like screw it, and he's like drinks the the Emperor's smile. But it also reminded me of Wuxian just being like, whatever. Like, I'll just deal or whatever. I know they're totally different contexts, but that whole no forget it reminded me of whatever, and just that casualness of it. I don't know. I feel like there's something there. And then Xishan says it's too late, and that's when he gets Ling. And the string coming out of his wrist, that's gross. That's just disgusting. No, thank you. And then Sishui and Ning show up because they tried to do a fake out with Ning where they said that he was Mingxu, and I'm like, no, that's Ning's actor. He's right there. He has the same hair and everything. And I'm glad that it was actually him. But he looks so menacing there. I will say Ning's actor, he's such a cinnamon bun, but when he does want to look menacing or scary, he manages to pull it off. And then Wanji, hacker of limbs. But I guess Baxia cut off Yao's arm, right? I guess so, but Yao lost his arm. I love that at one point they're like, we'll get some herbs on it. It's like he's just bleeding out. It's like there's no help. There's no helping that. And Wanji and Xishan try to calm down Ning using the instruments. And then Wuxian, Chang throwing Wuxian the flute is really nice. I liked that scene. I liked Chang throwing him the flute. That was great. And then them just going through and seeing the yin iron come out of Yao's pocket. And just, there's a lot of exposition in this. A lot of exposition. And I've watched the Donghua, and so I kind of knew where it was going. But I forgot, like that shot where you figure out that Huaisang stayed back with Sushi. Oh, that was great. The moment you see him like lurk in the distance, he's like a shadow in this episode. Every time Huaisang's standing up in these episodes, he's just like a shadow. Like the shadow of the devil. It's great. And then, yeah, Huaisang got stabbed by Sushi. Now, whether or not he actually got stabbed, we don't know because Baxia kills Sushi. It's pretty sad. Even though, you know what? I never liked Sushi's character at all, but he still goes out in an awful way in this series, and I'm like, dang, that sucks. I was a little bit confused with the whole Mingxu thing. I kept thinking throughout this entire set of episodes, because in the Donghua, the corpse from Mingxu like battles them and ends up getting sealed back in the coffin along with Yao. And that ends up happening in this in the most roundabout way, but I was a little bit confused. I was like, for censorship reasons, for stunt work, whatever, that Mingxu, I kept thinking Mingxu's corpse was going to pop up and attack him. And it never did. It stayed there. Yao came to Mingxu, and that was it. And that part was a little disappointing. I kept wanting Mingxu to, like, get out of the coffin and fight them, but I'll be curious to see how the novel does it. But Baxia gets under control with the yin iron. They put them all there with Mingxu's corpse. Sijui is going to take Huaisang back. And then, yeah, just like in the Donghua, Huaisang is sitting there and Xishan's helping to heal him. And just like in the Donghua, as he's healing him, and he takes the medicine and puts it away, and then he says, look behind you. I guess to hide the medicine, so he's like, oh, I can't find it anywhere. And then he says, wait, look behind you, and that's when Xishan stabs him. And they set it up so perfectly because they have Xishan saying, if you try to do anything, I will not hesitate or show mercy. And yeah, I was like, okay, just fix my arm. And then Huaisang takes total advantage of it. And the funny thing is, Huaisang doesn't get his hands dirty. He has Xishan do it. God, and that whole thing, like in the Donghua, Yao goes closer and closer and edges into the sword. You felt it in this series. You felt him like crunching it, and Xishan just being like, Xishan's actor, God, his expressions and all of this, like from the give me strength head shakes, just being like, no, like just his quiet fury and quiet contemplation and emotion just bubbling up it's so dang good. But and then starting episode 50, I can't believe they left off episode 49 into 50. What a cliffhanger! Like what? I'm glad I did not stop there. But I love the idea of Yao saying that I've told lies, I've killed people, I've done many things, but the one thing I've never done is I've never harmed you. And it's like, if that's not a love confession at the wrong time, like, ugh, it's awful. It's like, no, why? It's so cruel. Oh my God. And then Yao, like, dragging him back to the coffin. I felt like that scene was a bit rushed. I felt like him, because in the Donghua, that's the big catalyst to the final battle, is that he pushes back to the coffin, he uses the blood and activates everything, and Mingzhu comes back up to attack them. In the Donghua, it's a big old scene, right? But in here, it almost feels like an afterthought, like it's getting ready to lead somewhere, and then it doesn't, it just kind of falls flat. So I was waiting for something to happen with that scene, and then it doesn't. It just, everything collapses, and it's like, oh, okay. But just like in the Donghua, he asks Xixin to die with him, and Xixin was going to. He was going to die with him. Take that for what you will. But he was going to die for him, and then at the very last minute, Yao's like, I can't let you do that, and he pushes him away. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, y'all. I can't. And so then, yeah, we have Ling mourning Yao. Because, yeah, Yao, like, held him at, not knife point, at string point. But at the end of the day, Yao was Ling's uncle, and Ling loved him. He gave him fairy and everything, and now he's gone. And Ling's like, I feel really bad for Ling in all of this, because all of the other characters in this scene, in these episodes, all of our characters here, they all have history with one another. They have history from 16 years ago. They have history now. Like, it's all built up over time. Ling is the exception. Ling and, like, Sishui, they're like, we don't know what's happening. Especially Ling. Ling's like, I was a baby when all this was going on. I know nothing of your past. So all he knows is what's happening in the present. And it's really, really sad because he's lost his uncle. Someone he cared about that betrayed him. And then Xixin crying, him sitting there crying, like tears rolling down his face, and then him sitting next to Wei Wuxian. I was waiting for him to tell Wei Wuxian off. And he doesn't, because there's no proof. There's no proof of what Wei Wuxian did, but that moment where he's like, you need to tell me, did you have a part in all this? And Wei Wuxian's like, I really don't know. Like a head shaker until the end. Like I said, it's so great because you just don't see it coming. And then when you put all the pieces together, and that at the very end there, especially with Wuxian, when you put all the pieces together, you're like, Wei Wuxian was behind all of it. Like, he was the actor, and Yao's like, and Yao figured it out right at his death. But yeah, and what I do like that this series does is they never give Wei Wuxian like the evil, like, mustache twirling thing. They give him a couple looks that are suspicious, but they never outright show him in a villainous light. He's always just Wei Wuxian. And even at the end there, when he's more confident and has the fan, he doesn't act villainous, he's just more confident. He got what he wanted. And so then, yeah, and I want to make a note! I said this in the reaction, but Xixin, Zaizen is like the first person to run up to Wuxian. Like, you can see him as the extras. He's the first person to run up to Wuxian and be like, are you okay, Master Wei? I'm like, that is such a great little thing. Like, the tiniest little tidbit to include in the story. Because it's like, how many people are analyzing this like we are? How many of us are, like, watching it and scanning for any possible clue? Maybe they know that. Maybe they know their audience. Maybe they know where we all are. But I love that they include just that little tiny moment. It's not even pointed. It's not even brought attention to. You just see it happen in the background. Zaizen, my heart. I love it. And then Wei Wuxian finding the hat of Yao as a child. And we have that flashback of him and his mom. And y'all told me way, way back when I was, like, making fun of Yao and his hat, like, from the way back, like, in the 30s or whatever the episode was, a lot of you were like, oh, there's a reason that he wears that hat. It's part of his character. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. And then here we see that, yeah, his mom was, like, putting it to hide his forehead, like, all that, and, like, giving him something to make him look, to make him happy and make him feel a little bit better about himself. And it's like he took his mother's, words to heart and connects that hat with her. So I really like it. And I love the imagery of when Wei Wuxian, like, turns it over in his hand, like, blood wipes off on it. It's just, I'm really, really excited to read the novel and see how the novel handles the reveal. I'm really excited about that, but we'll see. And then, oh man, Chang and Ling's little pouty face where he, like, gets on his hands and knees. He's like, that Wuxian and Wanji ran off together. I do like in this version. In the Donghua, they say that Chang just went into seclusion and he, like, went into seclusion. He was so racked with guilt over everything. But here, I like that we see Chang by the tree, and it leaves it more open-ended in this, where you think that Wuxian's probably going to go back and talk to Chang at some point. Like, it's much more open-ended. And I love that scene in the rain. The flashback, where he's the one that lured the guards away from Wuxian in that moment, and, like, Chang in the rain and everything. It's so well shot. It looks great. It looks great. I, like, finished my coffee right before I checked my notebook. But, yeah, so Chang is going back, lured the guards away. We get the most. I almost cried. I felt the emotion was welling up. I nearly cried when Yan had his moment with Wuxian, where we find out it's Yan. I'm waiting for that in the novel. It's probably going to get me. But here, it was just it was so good. Like, all the feels. Like, just when they put two and two together, and Wuxian being like, it's you, and Yan being like, it is me. And it's like, ah! That part's much better than Donghua. I love that reveal. It's so good. Like I said, I nearly cried. I was like, oh my god. And then just... But yeah, and so Yan and Ning going off together, I figured that would happen. I'm so curious how the novel's going to handle this. But then that ending! I'm sorry. What? That ending did us dirty. Did us so dirty. At first, when they were just like, oh, we'll just... Because when he kept looking back at Wangji, I'm like, what are you going to say? You're going to go back to Gusu? What? The whole point was that you don't care about your reputation anymore as long as you're with Wuxian. What? And then we find out he become the clan leader. They call him His Excellency. I'm like, he became the clan leader? Huh? That doesn't sound like Wangji. I guess they're assuming that Jishin's in such grief over everything that's happened, and Qiren's like, you take over, Wangji. But I'm like, no. No. You know what it reminded me of? Have you ever seen the series number 6? If you haven't seen the series number 6, it's an anime. It's based off a light novel and a manga. You should watch number 6. It's like 11 episodes. It's really short. The manga's much better. But it has a similar ending to this that's left ambiguous. Only it's a little bit less ambiguous than this, if you can believe that. But it's a very similar ending, and I was frustrated with that ending too, for reasons. But yeah, I was just like, what? No. And then it was so confusing because they like focused in on Wangji and Wuxian like staring each other down, and Wuxian being like, I'm not coming with you. And I'm like, why not? And then it seemed like the episode was ending, so I went to check the time, and it said there was 11 minutes left. I'm like, well then, if there's 11 minutes left, what else are we going to do? And then we cut to them like talking about the wishes with the lanterns that they made, and Wangji's wish was that there'd be less violence. And I hope that they touch base back on that in the novel, because I want to see what they say in the novel versus the Untamed. And then we get the whole thing with confident Huaisang, the whole thing, thou shalt not befriend the devil, and do that. And then I like that Huaisang's like, I don't feel the need to meddle in anybody's businesses but my own. Like, if it's not part of my agenda, I don't worry about it. And that kind of gives the hint that this was all because Huaisang was trying to get revenge for his brother. And so it was his business. I'm like, okay. But then, of course, Wangji's like, you didn't ask him. And Wuxian's like, oh, if he was behind everything, what's the point of asking now? It's all in the past. But that's kind of like hinting to us, the audience, that like, yeah, he's behind everything. But there's no point in bringing it up because... what's the point now, right? And then Wuxian leaving and Wangji and them on the waterfall, like looking at each other. They have a flute and zither solo, and then they like look longingly at each other and smile, and then they go their separate ways. And then Wuxian's like, well, won't you tell me the name of your song? And Wangji's like, all in good time or whatnot. And then at the very, very end, he turns back and there he is. I'm like, or we think it's him, which it obviously is him, but you can show us. If you can tell, I'm upset by the ending of this. Because I love this series. This series has been so good from start to finish. But it ends like that? How are you as the audience not flustered? I feel like MXTX, I feel like they showed her the ending and she was like, yeah, that's fine. They'll come back and read the novel now. They'll want to know how it really ends. Because yeah, it's like leading up to, if you've not read the novel, it gets spicy, and it's gotten spicy, and I've been told it gets even more spicy, so I'm excited to listen to that the next couple weeks and get into all that jazz. But from about chapter 90 on of the text, like the book itself is pretty much, there's moments. There's like a kiss or two. There's moments in the novel up until 90 chapters in. Like I said, it's a slow burn. But then from chapters like 91, 92 on, it's been like, you've waited this long and now it's time for your reward. And it's like, all right, that's what I've been waiting on. And so I really wanted them to end it with them like riding off into the sunset together and like looking at one another. And I get that for censorship reasons, they can't show like a hand holding or a kiss or anything like that. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like a nice longing look. And Zan and Yibo, like Wanji gives these beautiful smiles in the yawn reveal. And I was like, oh, that's great. But that's like where we get them. We don't get them in the actual final scenes. And I'm like, why not? I can't believe I checked my notebook. I was like so mad in that moment. I was like, no! I've only thrown a book one other time in my life, and that was Grapes of Wrath, and that was warranted. So it gives kind of an ending like this, where you're just like, the fudge. So, But yeah. So our journey with the Untamed characters is not over. I still have the 2 movies that I'm going to be watching. The WangXian Special Edition, I have been sent a link that has all those scenes compiled together. I am going to be reacting to it. So we're not done with Untamed yet. We've got 2 movies, the WangXian Special Edition to go over, and then the character songs from the Untamed. I've got those that I want to do, and then possibly down there we're going to be doing a behind-the-scenes video too. So we still got like another month of Mo Dao Zu Shi, so it's not over yet. We're not done. Heaven's Official Blessing will probably start around May, which will be fitting because my birthday's in May. So I'm like, the ultimate birthday gift will be finishing Mo Dao Zu Shi and starting a new series. So I'm pretty excited about that. But we still have lots more Untamed stuff to go through, even though the full series is done. And I still have like 15 more chapters to read of the novel, which I'm going to be listening to the audio drama and talking about the novel chapters the next couple weeks for that. So fun time. So Mo Dao Zu Shi is not over. We still have Mo Dao Zu Shi this month of April. I'm excited by that, but man, what a conclusion. I don't know if I like the Donghua or this conclusion better. I need to think about that. And then once I talk about, we are going to have a live stream when all this is said and done to talk about Mo Dao Zu Shi and the Untamed. But yeah, we'll have to wait on that and see. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction. And watching these last 3 episodes, I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to be talking more about the series in the audio drama and novel chapter reviews that come out at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time before this. And then we still have movies and the WangXian Special Edition and the Untamed character songs to go through. So lots more content still. We're not totally done with Mo Dao Zu Shi, but I'm so glad y'all got me into this series. I really have loved it. There's going to be so many scenes that I go back and rewatch now just to see. Is it weird that I want to go back and rewatch the Yao and Jishin moments as much as the Wanji and Wuxian moments? Like that, just the angst in this episode was insanity. But yeah. So this was a tour de force, let me tell you. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, next week we'll be going over the first movie, Fateful Journey, I believe, is the first movie, and watching it and reacting to it. So until then, I hope you all have a great week. Take care, and I'll see you all again with more of The Untamed. Bye.